There's a couple of things I want to ask you about because you were a policy guy as well as a politics guy. Um, Internal Revenue Service is working with immigration to try and find out some of these people who are here maybe illegally. The Trump administration has also announced fines against people who have deportation orders. Do you think these kinds of measures can work? They're less sexy. They're certainly less draconian than, taking some guy off the street who's got his autistic daughter with him. He's on his way to school and, sending him 24 hours to a Salvadoran prison. But what do you think of these approaches the Trump administration has taken to try and get the immigration service back to kind of it's what it used to be, which is putting pressure on, I guess, on employers too, as well as illegals? I want you to talk about that.
Yeah. So there's two things. One is I think what we have seen is a patchwork. So we had Trump first administration, or, Obama, then Trump, Biden, now Trump. And we go through this iteration of what priorities you have when it comes to immigration. I want the president to codify a lot of this in law. And there's a lot of things that I think while you have a Republican majority, we could do. Visa reform, numbers, customs. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to use while you have a majority so that we don't have to, because you think about this like an EKG. You keep going back and forth on policy, whether we enforce it or not. That's what matters. And it was funny. I've got a buddy of mine who does some international contracting, and they got these billboards somewhere in South America. And he was saying during Trump, they had these billboards up, and I think it was a State Department contract, but please don't hold me to that. And they would say, the borders of America are closed, don't come. And then when Biden came in, it said need help, and it had a phone number. And you can, so the shift is pretty clear. You remember at one point they asked Kamala Harris, what's your message? She said, don't. But it was almost like she winked at the same time. Don't come, wink, nod. Because if you do, we're going to give you a phone card, a hotel room, and a bunch of cash. I mean, it's sort of like, wait, don't come? I thought but the problem is that if we don't codify this stuff in law, and that's why what I would urge President Trump and the Republican Congress to do is put this stuff on, because what we see is a lot of times the court says, okay, but the law says X, right? I know what the intention is. And so my view is that instead of hoping for a good judge or judge shopping, that the Republican Congress, while it controls both chambers and a Republican president, codify this stuff in law, make the appropriate reform, get to the 10, 15 things you agree upon, package it up, and send it and lock it in, right?
Well, could they put together a package that could get Democrat support or at
maybe
least some in the Senate? Because you know what the Democrats have always said they cared about, the ones who are serious about the issue is the dreamers. And if you these people brought here 30 years ago as children, they don't even speak Spanish
Well,
anymore.
President Trump's actually pretty sympathetic to that too. I mean,
so if you put together a package like that, could you get something through Congress that would actually, it'd be like, look, we said on our show yesterday, we haven't had a major immigration law since 1886.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, so my point is, first of all, I have a separate view on this. Personally, I think that if you're in the country illegally, maybe we give those people permanent status, but don't, again, and that's in the weeds. But the larger point that you and I think are both saying is codify some of this stuff. Don't allow it to, because if you're in this country illegally, the last 4 years prior to Trump was, hey, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. And frankly, we'll incentivize it. Then Trump says, no, we're going to kick you out. And I think if there's a law, if we can codify some of this, then we're not going administration to administration. And that,
don't you think that the key here one of them is, this refugee status. It's been used in a way it was never originally intended.
Right.
And so all a person has to do is, and they're told to this by, Catholic Charities or a lawyer, say that you're going to be killed if you go back to your country. Well, I'm not going to be killed. Yeah, but just say it, And, oh, really? And that's the magic word. And even by the end of the Biden administration, by the middle of it, they didn't even have to say that. They were coming and they were basically given a piece of paper that says, in a language they may or not even read, come to court on August 33rd, 2032.
Right. And by the way, if you don't come, which you're right, because they kicked it 5 years, 8 years down the road. Yeah. And by the way, if you don't come, there's really no penalty for it. So everybody knew it was a joke.
Well, but also, and this is where I think the Republicans should be careful, Sean, but, correct me if you disagree or refute it. If that's how you were treating refugees, it's hard to say they were committing a crime. It didn't feel like to them like they were committing a crime. it felt like the country must have wanted them to treat them that way. Free hotels, court date 5 years in the
Right.
future.
No. That's fair enough. Like if you're sitting back and because I think a lot of these folks get trafficked and they're sold like, look, they clearly want you. They're putting you up in these hotels. They're giving you a gift card and a phone. And if you don't know better, you're like, wow, it sounds like they actually want us.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. And that's why my view is, guys, every time, if we don't codify some of this in law, then what's going to happen is the next administration is going to say, well, this is how we're interpreting this law, or this is what we're not going to enforce. But the one thing that I have also found is where the Trump administration has hit a bunch of hurdles on a bunch of things is that the judges will say, well, the law says X. So if we can get the law codified where you have a Republican Congress, then the law actually favors us and don't have to worry about the interpretation of an article, 3 court or whatever. So my personal view is, there's a game. Which one is this? One of those game shows where they lock in the money, it goes up, and they go bank and they lock it in. And my view is, guys, find that, there might be 50 immigration issues. Find the 20 that you agree on, bank it. Instead of getting, all tied up in the weeds with, well, I don't buy into that. Say, what are the 15, 20 things that we agree upon immigration wise, and bank it. Because right now it's a hodgepodge, and and I agree with you. A lot of people are coming to this country under false pretenses because they're being sold. Oh, they actually want you. They'll give you a gift card. They'll give you a hotel room.
You're listening to Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary and the host of the Sean Spicer Show. It's a hard one to remember.
It's a lot of marketing into that.
I'm Carl Cannon, Washington bureau chief, Real Clear Politics. Sean, I was thinking as you were talking, I remember, I guess it was the 2012 campaign. Mitt Romney was asked his view of immigration, and he came up with this interesting phrase, self-deportation. Boy, we had fun at his expense.
Yes.
Oh, who is going to deport themselves? Oh, what an idiot Mitt is. Well, guess what? This is now the policy of the Trump administration, and they're doing things to try and incentivize it.
Well, that's the key. That's the key, Carl, is that and I feel, I know Romney got a lot of flack for it, but he didn't create that. What I think wasn't clear then and is clear now, where Trump's making, Kristi Noem went out there in one of the commercials. If you leave now, you'll have a better chance getting back in, right? And
right. And the other argument, and that's a powerful argument, I would think.
Yeah, I agree.
And the other one is they're talking about fines. They did a little of this the first term when you were there, but they didn't really follow through. And of course, Biden got rid of it. But fining people who are, issuing them fines, like substantive fines. Boy, that's an incentive to leave because.
Well, but Carl, when you drive down, we all have a street in our community. And I know plenty of them where it says posted 25, and nobody in their life has gone 25 on the road because they don't enforce it, right? And so, but I was literally earlier this day driving off in downtown DC, and they had signs photo enforced. Okay, and what did I do? I got my car down to 25 miles an hour because I was like, okay, I'm going to get caught if I do this. And I think part of the problem with our immigration system is there is a lack of a sense that you're not going to get caught or deported or pay a fine or a penalty. And where I think Trump is different is that he's making it clear, you stay, the longer you stay, the greater the penalty will be. And maybe that penalty is never being able to re-enter the US again, or a fine or whatever. But if people know that, I mean, I hate to say this, not like, there's certain laws that are moral, right? Killing people and things like that. But like speed limits, you go, okay, why, if I know I'm not going to get caught because there's never a cop and there's no whatever, but I'm literally driving over this bridge going from DC to Virginia, and I see these signs that say photo enforced, speed limit 25. I know it's indiscriminate. Like, they're going to take a photo. I'll get a thing in the mail that says you owe $100. Well, I'm not going to do it. And I think we've got to do that with immigration, is make it clear what our laws are and that people know that they're going to be enforced.
All right, let me ask you another question, and this is the tough one. And we've been talking about it on our show all week and even last week. But
listen, I'm ready for this because I do think the Red Sox are going to have a really good season.
I'm talking about the excesses of the Trump thing. The obvious one was this Maryland one that I mentioned. This guy, some informant told the police 10 years ago he was in MS-19. He's always denied it. There's no evidence. He's never been charged with the crime. He's father of 3, autistic kid, lives in a middle-class house, undocumented taxpayers, we used to call those people in California. And suddenly, 24 hours later, he's in a prison in El Salvador, never even been charged with a crime. He hasn't lived there since he was a teenager. and the administration won't back down. And I'm going to ask you why, when they make a mistake like that, why don't they, all right, our bad, we'll get him back. And why some of these excesses to me, and there's a lot of them, some of these students they're rounding up, they're undermining the effort. And I don't understand why.
Are they? Because look, let me ask you this.
Well, that's my opinion.
Right. And I guess my question is, like, let's say use my speed limit example for a second, which is it's the law. It says 25 miles an hour. Now, granted, it's not, it's I don't even know what classification. I'm not a lawyer, but it's not like you go to jail. Well, not always. Sometimes if you go far enough in advance, at least in Virginia, you will
They put Jason Worth in jail for speeding.
Right. If you're over 20 miles an hour, it escalates quick. But the point is that at some point people don't, my joke, as soon as you put out little electronic things going over this bridge out of DC, I slowed down because I was like, okay, that's the law. They're going to enforce it. I'm going to get a ticket. And where we have lost our sense of rule of law is people started just sort of saying, I don't need to abide that. They're never going to do anything. And yes, it might be excessive. I don't know I've heard some conflicting evidence on that individual's case. So I will admit straight up, I have not looked entirely into it, but I have heard it's not as simple as, he just overstayed a visa.
Wait, to use your analogy, this guy he's going 32 and a 25. They pulled him out of the car, beat him up, handcuffed him, and took him to jail without a trial. I mean, how about some sense of proportion here?
So let's play that analogy forward. I was telling you a moment ago when I was going from DC out into Virginia and I saw the signs saying photo enforced ticket. Like I was like, okay, I'm going 24, right? Maybe you shouldn't have to have that kind of incentive to follow the law. But if you're in this country illegally and broke the law coming in and you start to realize, holy smokes, they're serious, they're going after people. One, it disincentivizes people from illegally entering the country. And two, if you're here, you might think twice about, gosh, do I really want to be staying if I'm in the country illegally, seeing what happens? It sends a pretty strong signal to me to say to folks, hey, if you're here illegally, you're not going to just be able to hide in the shadows anymore if you get caught.
Well, that's what the Democrats are saying, although they're saying it in a slightly different way. What they're saying is they're just trying to terrorize and scare the bejesus out of people.
But it's
wait.
Right, but all I'll say is just a full stop. That
well,
we are a nation of laws, and once we start saying, but if you are nice about it when you break our laws, we'll let you.
No, but this guy went to court and he wasn't deported. I mean, look, we can just agree to disagree. We got 30 seconds left. I need to ask you a question. Trump's first 100 days not over yet, but it's coming up on that. What grade would you give him? Donald Trump 2.0.
A-.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, what I love about it is there's no pussyfooting around this. These guys are like, we have 4 years, we're going to get stuff done. And again, is it
so? If I'd asked you before he untanked the stock market that he tanked, would it have been a B+ or a B-?
Yeah. I mean, well, look, no, here's the deal. I for different reasons, I want him to stand up for immigration, and for unfair trade practices. And the idea that we've been suckered this big, all these other countries have high tariff barriers going into their country, market access issues. So I'm actually on board on that. In fact, where I have a problem was they came up with too many issues. So it was market access, and then they went through a series of other.
Invest in this country,
right?
Lower export. Yeah.
So I mean, style, I might have an issue with it, but in terms of what their goal was, I was on board on that 100%. We're getting ripped off by these countries. It's time that we got treated better. So I was on board on that. I will say, if he can ultimately. Some people take too much issue with his style. I care about the end of the day. And if he can get us a greater market access for our farmers, ranchers, service providers, I'm all for that. And I think the one thing I love about this time is I don't feel he is unleashed. He is ready to go in these 4 years.